My sister revealed her pregnancy at my birthday party. Fully aware that I can't have children when I confronted her, she claimed in front of everyone that I pushed her down the stairs out of jealousy. So I handed this note to my brother-in-law before he left, and now I'm witnessing the fallout as her. Life unravels. A couple of days ago, I celebrated my birthday. It was not like I was excited about it, but my husband forced me to partake in the celebrations. The reason is that a couple of weeks ago we found out that I was infertile. My husband and I have been married for 3 years, and about 8 months ago, we started trying for a baby. Unfortunately, we were not receiving any results. So we decided to get tested. That's when we found out. I was obviously devastated, because I was honestly ready to start a family. Finding out that it wouldn't be possible for a while really shattered me. The only people who knew about it were my parents, and I accidentally let it slip to my sister when she visited a couple of days after we found out. Gabby, my sister, and I used to be very close when we were children, but we had drifted apart in the past couple of years. It was mostly due to a huge change in her attitude. She had started believing that she was too good for us after she got married to her husband Ron. She had started dating him 5 years back, and earlier this year, they finally got married. Back when they initially started dating, he was studying to become a surgeon, and this year he passed his board certification. He had already been making a considerable amount of money, and now he was going to be even richer after they got married. She was a different person altogether. Gabby had already been flying pretty high while she was dating Ron and couldn't stop talking about how she was a surgeon after their wedding. I guess the money got to her head, and she started treating us very differently. She would prioritize Ron's family over her own, rarely ever speaking to us unless we called her first. Even her friends said that she had changed a lot. A couple of months ago, my parents finally confronted her about her behavior and told her that it was really disappointing. I guess that gave her a much-needed reality check, and she started trying to keep in touch with us in earnest. I really appreciated that. That's why she visited me a couple of weeks ago. And while talking to her, I just suddenly broke down. She comforted me since my husband had not come back home from work that day, as he was working overtime. When I told her the reason why I had a random breakdown in the middle of the day, she seemed very sympathetic and told me that it would get better soon, and everyone would always be there for me if I wanted to speak to them. I honestly thought she really understood what was going on, but apparently not, judging by what happened at my birthday party after I had cut my cake. Gabby said that she had an announcement to make, and then went on to share the news that she was pregnant. Everyone was thrilled and congratulated her, but I was just numb because just a couple of days ago, I had told her about my infertility, and the very same living room she had sat beside me and comforted me, telling me that everything would be all right. But now she had displayed an extraordinary amount of insensitivity towards me and what I was going through. Even after she had comforted me, my husband could also see that I was shocked, and he tried to talk to me, but I was just numb on the inside. Before I ended up crying in the middle of the living room with all those people around me, I decided to run upstairs and be on my own for a while. More than upset, I felt betrayed that after pretending to be my friend, Gabby had been heartless and insensitive towards me. When I rushed upstairs, I locked myself in my bedroom and started crying because I was feeling really bad about what happened. She could have picked any other time to announce her pregnancy, and I wouldn't have minded, and probably would have even been happy for her and congratulated her, but this party had been thrown specifically to distract me from what was going on with me, and she had made it all about herself and her pregnancy. While I was crying, Abby came to my door upstairs and tried to talk to me, but I had nothing to say to her. I just really couldn't understand what was going on with her, so I decided to open the door after a few minutes and confront her. She had been saying that she did not intend to hurt me. As soon as I opened the door, I asked her if she hadn't intended to hurt me. Then what had her intentions actually been, because I really couldn't think of any other explanation for what she had done. She came up with an extremely lame excuse and said that the only reason she had made this announcement at my party was because she had found out a couple of days ago, and she couldn't wait to share it with her family. She claimed that the news about my infertility had completely slipped her mind, and if she had remembered, she never would have done this. But I did not buy that because she had spent a good half-hour comforting me about this a couple of weeks ago. Even after that, we had spoken about this several times. On the phone, only an idiot would believe that she had forgotten about this so quickly. And I told her to her face that I did not believe her. I said that she just wanted to make this party about herself, because she hadn't really changed from the kind of person she had been in the recent past. She had indeed turned into a huge show-off, and couldn't resist the opportunity to make everything about herself. Gabby seemed pretty affronted by this accusation, and we had a little argument where she said that I was being oversensitive and blamed her of doing all of this on purpose. Eventually, I remember that I had guests waiting for me downstairs and did not want to give them the wrong impression. Because the fact that I had run upstairs to hide from everyone as soon as Gabby had announced her pregnancy seemed a bit iffy. It's not like any of them knew about my infertility, and the real reason why I had run away. I did not want them to think that I was jealous of my sister and couldn't even bear her happiness, so I told Gabby that I did not wish to argue with her at my birthday party and ruin the event, and we could speak about all of this later. We decided that we were going to go downstairs and put on a happy face for the rest of the family, and everyone else. We started to climb down the stairs, and all of a sudden, when we were in a position where she was in view of a living room, but I was obscured, she pretended to slip on one of the stairs. I could see it very clearly, right in front of me. She pretended to lose her balance, and everyone came rushing to help her. Since I was so close to her, I knew for a fact that nothing had happened, but before I could even say anything, she started yelling at the top of her lungs and blamed me of pushing her on purpose. Obviously, I had not done any such thing, and I tried to defend myself, but she was being so loud that people could barely even hear me. She was claiming that I had pushed her out of jealousy, and finally let out my secret about being infertile. She started shouting about how I had been upset that she had announced her pregnancy at my birthday party since I was infertile, and then said that she felt bad for me. It was still not an excuse for me to be so jealous that I was ready to risk her life. She was back on her feet soon enough, because a lot of people were there to help her, and all of them were looking at me suspiciously, not knowing who to trust. My husband and I were dumbstruck. We had seen stuff like this happen in films, but never in real life, and now that it was happening to us, we had no idea what to do. I obviously wanted to be truthful to everyone, and I tried to shout over Gabby's voice and tell people that it was true, that I was upset that Gabby had made this party all about herself and her pregnancy. In spite of knowing about my infertility, I would obviously never do such a thing like pushing her down the stairs, because I went down. Even my own parents seemed unsure of what to believe, and I just burst into tears. So my husband told the guests that the party was over and people started leaving. My parents were the only ones who came to comfort me, and Gabby and Ron were about to leave, but they stopped them. My parents wanted to get to the bottom of everything, so even though Gabby wanted to leave, she had to stay and have a discussion with them. I wasn't part of the discussion, but I could hear everything. I just couldn't say anything because I was crying so hard and couldn't bring myself to stop. I could hear my parents talking to Gabby about what had happened and reprimanded her for announcing the pregnancy, knowing that I was going through something regarding my fertility issues. They said that it had really been pretty insensitive of her, but she was very indignant. She insisted that it was not her fault that I was so insecure and jealous of her. Then my parents asked if I really had pushed her down on the stairs, and she insisted that I had, which was a complete and total lie. So I lost my temper at that point and started screaming at her to get out of my house. She started screaming right back at me, calling me all sorts of names, and my parents had to take her away. Ron did not leave with her. He stayed back for a couple of minutes to speak to my husband and apologize for what was going on, unlike Gabby. He seemed genuinely sorry about this situation and said that he had no idea that Gabby was going to make this announcement at this birthday party. If he had known about my fertility issues, he probably would have stopped her. But things didn't pan out that way. He was about to leave. But then I did something, and that's what I'm here about. Before he went through the door, I stopped him, scribbled something on a tissue, and slipped him that note. I told him to open it when he came back home and read it to Gabby. He seemed very confused and was about to open it right there. But I stopped him and told him to follow my instructions because I really wanted to show Gabby her place. Both my husband and Ron were very confused by what I had done. But eventually he left along with Gabby. My parents came back, apologized for everything, even though none of this was their fault, and then left after everyone had gone. My husband finally asked me what was in that note, and I explained to him that I had scribbled to ask Gabby where she had been a week before the wedding. A week before the wedding, Gabby had actually been spending the night with her friends, and they had had a bachelorette party for her. It was a huge secret that she had asked me to help her cover because Ron was very against the idea of such parties. He himself had never had a bachelor party, and everyone knew that his feelings towards bachelor and bachelorette parties were extremely negative. So much so that he almost counted them as cheating. Well, we all know that these parties are incomplete without people indulging in all sorts of debauchery, sometimes involving the kind of dancers whom your partner definitely won't approve. Gabby and her friends, however, did not see it that way and thought that it was necessary for her to have one night of fun without any repercussions before she got married. So they threw her a bachelorette party, and Gabby knew she would be in trouble if she told Ron the truth. She called me up to ask me to lie for her, and I had done the needful. I had told Ron that she was spending the night with me that day, but instead she had been with her friends now. I'm not aware of whether they were just drinking or if they had hired certain dancers for the party or not. But I thought it was about time that Ron got to know about this party. I knew for a fact that he would definitely confront Gabby about it. And after that, this was her problem. She had spilled a secret about me in front of so many people that I did not want to tell, so I was just returning the favor. I think she should be grateful that I didn't do it in public like she did. So anyway, after Ron and Gabby went back home that day, we received a call in the middle of the night from Gabby, and I could actually hear Ron raging in the background. She was crying, and it was pretty satisfying for me to hear, because I had been crying the exact same way, and she had had no sympathy to spare for me anyway. Through her tears, she told me that I had no right to meddle in her marriage, and said that she had been right about me being a jealous and insecure person. She then told me that she had only gone out drinking with her friends that night, and that was their definition of a bachelorette party. She had not done any of the things that Ron disapproved of, but she just didn't want him to be suspicious, and that's why she hadn't told him anything. But now, because of the way that I had told him about the bachelorette party, he refused to believe that she had been innocent and had only been drinking, because if that was the case, she would have told the truth in the beginning. Ron was accusing her of lying to him and cheating, and she wanted me to tell him that nothing had happened, and she had only been drinking with her friends. But I told her that I was not going to do any such thing, because since I hadn't been present at the party, I didn't really know what was going on. Even if I had, it was really foolish of her to expect me to help. After what she had done to me, I didn't even wait for her answer. I hung up immediately, and then blocked her so she wouldn't be able to call me again. I spoke to my husband about it, because I had been feeling a bit guilty, but he told me that I did not need to help her out, because she had falsely blamed me of pushing her down the stairs while she was pregnant, and it was a pretty serious allegation against me if she hadn't cared about the repercussions that it would have. I did not need to think about what would happen with her marriage. Either, at least I have the satisfaction of knowing that I was telling the truth, unlike her, so I didn't think about it much and just got along with my work for the next couple of days. Today is the 4th day since my birthday, And while I was at work, my mother called me up to ask me exactly what had happened between Ron and Gabby. Apparently Gabby had shown up with a fine with that, to be honest, but I know that I'm going to have to address it with the rest of my family and a couple of my friends at some point. I know it's going to be easier to talk to my friends about it. I've already spoken to some of them, and they believe me wholeheartedly. It's just my family that I'm nervous about talking to. I don't think that I'll be able to bear it if they start believing Gabby instead of me anyway. I won't know if I don't try update to Hey. So I finally decided to send out a message to everyone who was present at the party. First and foremost, I apologized for making a run for it when Gabby announced her pregnancy, because that was completely unnecessary. I mean, of course it was necessary for me, but as the host of the party, I should have thought about everything else as well. My emotions got the better of me in that moment, and I apologized for that. Then I went on to share with everyone that everything Gabby had said about me being infertile was actually true, and that was the reason that I had run upstairs when she shared the news of her pregnancy. I told everyone that Gabby had known all along, and yet she hadn't thought twice before making that insensitive announcement. I told people that the reason my husband and I were celebrating my 30th birthday with such extravagance in the first place was so that I could take my mind off of things, and for her to make an announcement like that, knowing what I was going through, I thought it was very insensitive of her. I'm pretty sure that everyone would agree that she could have chosen any other time or place to make this announcement, and I would have been fine with it anyway. I told people that we had had an argument about it upstairs, but we had decided to put our differences aside so that we could get back to the party, because we did not want to keep everyone waiting while climbing down the stairs. I had really not even made any movements, and I had actually been a couple of steps behind her, so I couldn't have pushed her, even if I wanted to. I saw that I hadn't done anything, and she had been lying about me pushing her out of jealousy, but since I did not have any evidence, people would just have to take my word for it if they chose to believe Gabby. That was their opinion. But I wanted people to know the truth and make their own decisions. I sent that message a couple of hours ago to pretty much everyone who was present at the party. I have received a lot of responses from many people, and everyone wants me to know that the only reason they haven't reached out to me so far is because they thought that I would need some time and space. But they are on my side here, and they know that I'm telling the truth. So that's a relief to know. I honestly feel like a huge burden has been lifted off of my shoulders. So that's it for now. I'll let you guys know if there's anything else that happened. I haven't heard from Ron or Gabby or my parents yet. Update 3 high, so a week has passed since I posted my last update, and yesterday my parents reached out to me and said that Gabby had finally gone back home, but now they wanted to speak to me in person and ask me to visit them. So after work I went to their place. When they invited me in, they immediately apologized. They said that so far they hadn't contacted me because they thought that this was a conversation that we needed to have in person, and as long as Gabby was living with them, they couldn't invite me over and talk to me peacefully. But now that she had sorted things out and moved back out, they wanted to share certain things with me, explain their behavior. My mother told me that the only reason she had been pissed at me that day was that it seemed like the problems with us were never ending. She told me that at the moment, it might have seemed to me like I was not being given the kind of preferential treatment that Gabby was receiving, and that my parents might have a favorite. But it was nothing of the sort. She told me that what Gabby had done was obviously unforgivable, and now that she had gone back, they were definitely going to distance her until she genuinely apologized for everything that she had put me through. But when she was still staying with them, she was in such a terrible condition that my mother was very frustrated with what was going on. She felt like she had failed as a parent, and that's why both of us were fighting like cats and dogs. Out of frustration, she had gone against me that day, and she was genuinely sorry for it. As for my dad, it was the same thing with him. They had wanted to reach out to me several times after that, but waited until Gabby had left. In fact, a huge part of the reason that she had left was that they had told her point blank that they thought she was being a disgusting person by accusing me of things that I obviously hadn't done, and trying to ruin my reputation. They got into a fight a couple of days back, which is probably why she was able to sort things out with Ron so quickly and leave. They had read the message that I had sent to all our other family members, and they had confronted Gabby about that. She had admitted that she had made the whole thing up because she wanted to teach me a lesson, and after that was out in the open. There was no going back. My parents told me that I was free to take my time and think about whether I wanted to speak to them or not, because things have been very tense in our family for the past couple of weeks. So I told them that I was really thankful that they had apologized, but I would still need some time to think about things and get back to them. They had been right about things being very tense and our family for the past couple of weeks, and I really just wanted some peace and quiet. For now, I'm not going to be speaking to Gabby anymore. That's for certain, but I was also pretty disappointed with how my parents behaved with me, so I needed some time to cope with that as well. And they seem to understand it quite well, so we're going to take some time apart, reevaluate our priorities, and then get back to each other. I'm not too worried about this. I love my parents, and I know that they love me, so we are going to be fine. We just need some time, that's all. Update: for 3 months have passed since my last update, and things are going well with my family right now. Most people don't speak to Gabby anymore, even though she has tried to reach out to everyone several times. But she just really ruined her reputation with what she tried to do at my birthday party. The sad part is that she hasn't apologized to anyone yet, let alone me. She has started to show, and I feel kind of bad for her, because even though she's pregnant, she doesn't have anyone in her family to share that joy with. Even my parents are very distant, and they have maintained that they really want to meet their grandkid, be there for her when she's pregnant. But until she apologizes for everything that she did in the past, it's going to be very difficult for them to be there for her wholeheartedly. My personal life is going great. I have come to terms with the fact that I might not be able to conceive for a really long time. What we are looking into treatments, even if that is not something that we can work with. There's always adoption or maybe even surrogacy. There are a lot of ways that we can start a family in this day and age, and I'm not losing hope. My husband and I are already ready to be parents. We just need a child to take care of, and God willing, we are going to have that really soon.